Okay, this is dope. Okay, that's oh yeah, that's disconcerting. Wait, they stole your what? Oh no. No, don't like this. I don't want to play this anymore.
Welcome my fellow Quest heads and VR nerds. This is Eyes on VR, where I take a look at every VR game I can get my grubby little hands on, but always with a priority on VR shooters. I also take a look at gun stocks and real life accessories as well. Of course, timestamps will be down below, so if you want to get to a point in the review quickly, just go check them out in the description. Today's a very special one we're looking at that I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. Dr. Beef and his friends have been at it again, porting another game over to the Quest system. They've already done Half-Life 1, Quake 1, Quake 2, Doom 1, Doom 2, and Return to Castle Wolfenstein. But this time they've gone with one that I really enjoyed. It's the horrifying, it's the scary, it's the dynamically lit, beautiful looking game of Doom 3! Hooah!
Well, Charlie, let's do this thing.
Oh, what the hell is that?
Oh my god, he looks really tough. Oh no, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do here? I don't know. Oh, I need to turn the difficulty up. Can you shake this for battery or... Oh god. Sorry. Oh dear. No one saw. He's a civilian. I think I'm just gonna back it up. I hate these things. Come on, get up. No, back up. All right, grenade time. Yeah. Alright, here we go. Bang! Wow. Best pistol ever.
Did you play Doom 3 when it was originally released, or is this your first contact with the game? Let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. It really helps out the channel and I really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe down below for lots more Oculus Quest and PC VR content. Now, installing Doom 3 can be a bit of a task, so I'm just going to go over it briefly, but I'll leave a link in the description that will take you to the instructions from Dr. Beef and the team themselves. So you essentially download Doom 3 from the Steam store or wherever you're getting it. Just plain old Doom 3, no DLCs, no BFG edition, just bog standard Doom 3. Now you install that onto your PC, go to SideQuest, find the Doom 3 Quest page and click install to headset. And I know that's two separate installs on two separate systems, but bear with me. Put on your Quest and fire up Doom 3 Quest. It'll start, but then it'll basically just crash back to the start screen. But it's supposed to do this because it's just meant to input the files onto your Quest so you can drag proper files from the PC installation into the Quest installation. So once that's happened, plug your Quest back into your PC and go and find your installation of Doom 3 on your PC. Now go to the folder named Base, that's within Doom 3, copy over the PK4 files from game00.pk4 to game3.pk4, and then also the pack000.pk4 files all the way up to pack008.pk4. Drag those into the base folder on your Oculus Quest and you're good to go. Now, like I said, it's just a quick look at how to install it. If you go to the link in the description, you can follow it all at your own pace, step by step, and there's also contingency scenarios in there too if you have problems as you go along. So let's get into the meat of this review. Now let's start with what Doom 3 is for those of you that don't know, because there might be people out there expecting this or this, but that is not the way Doom 3 went. It took a chance on its release and they went for this.
This game ain't so bad. I mean, this mod... Oh my god, oh! What the hell was that? What's that? Who's that?
They went for straight up horror and went totally away from what Doom 1, Doom 2 had been before this. It was very controversial at the time to take such a new stance on this franchise, and it was a completely split opinion. People loved it or they hated it. For the most part, it did get pretty good reception from critics, but I mean, that was long ago in 2004. I remember having to get a new graphics card at the time so I could play this game, and now it's child's play and I can play this game with a headset that's basically a phone strapped to my face in VR, which is amazing. One of the biggest split opinions in the original release was the fact this game of horror and darkness, you could only hold your flashlight or your gun, not both at the same time. So it was a choice of either get into gunfights in the dark or just see your death coming towards you. And I'll get into this issue later on down the line, so stay tuned. So what's the story here? Doom 3 set in 2145. You are a Marine that's arrived to work security at a UAC Corporation Mars research base. Here, this lovely corporation has decided to experiment with teleportation, biological research, and advanced weapons. But surprise, surprise, on your first day, they end up having an issue with the teleportation machines that open a gateway to hell.
The devil is real. I know. Built his cage.
I'm getting abnormal readings here. This is bad.
Oh, God!
These levels. We're losing it!
And you're going to need to get your brown pants on here because you're fighting demons from hell while you go around the facility trying to stop everything that's happening. So get cracking, Marine. Let's address the obvious right away, and that's graphics. I'm of course going to judge this game by native Quest graphic standards and 2004 standards at the same time, because really it's the only fair way to do it for a game that came out in 2004. I'll be looking at it on the Quest 2, and I have to say it looks amazing on the Quest 2. Now when it comes to graphics, Dr. Beef and his team have set up default settings for the Quest 1 and the Quest 2. Your game will be at optimal performance with these settings. If you start to increase the super sampling or start messing around with the settings and change them from default, you're going to start to see performance issues from tiny issues all the way up to severe issues. So just leave them as they are. And before anyone thinks that they can increase their graphics via the side quest options, you know, increasing the default texture size, I talked about that in my video on side quest here. I've spoken to one of Dr. Beef's team and they say you can up your texture resolution via side quest, but it will have no benefit for you. I'm pretty confident in saying that this is the best looking native Oculus Quest game that exists right now. The dynamic shaders and lighting are a pleasure to behold, and that really does justice to the original release as well, because that dynamic lighting was a massive part of the marketing and push for how great this game looked. And whilst there's no HD texture pack here or anything, even though someone has posted in the Discord about them getting one to work with this port, the difference is minimal at best, and to be honest, I'd wait longer for more improvements when it comes to HD graphics for this port. But regardless, things do look good here. The character models still freak me out because this was made at a time where all character models look scary and weird as hell, but these graphics have aged really well, especially considering the hardware that this port is running on. And I'll tell you now, with that dynamic lighting, the darkness is still absolutely terrifying. There's not much to say here on sound really, it's all the same as it was when it was originally released, and the sound back then was great. Hearing that shotgun fire again though, that really brought it all back for me. I will mention this though, there's really no background soundtrack here, there's no sort of ambient music as you go along, it's just silence. Silence and the noise of the Mars station and what is going on that you can't see. And that really adds to how eerie this place is. You could be stood there just doing nothing, just reading a PDA email or something, and just listening, you'll hear things happening. And that breathes great life into this world that they've made on this Mars station. The other thing I'll say as well is the sounds are distinctive. A lot of the times monsters and people will appear from nowhere, from off screen, to catch you out, but if you listen, you know what's coming by the distinct sound, which gives you an edge when picking an appropriate weapon to use when you're about to be jumped by God knows what. So the sound design is really, really solid here. But it's time to talk the main point of this whole port, and that is the guns, the gameplay, and the combat. I'm not going to cover all the weapons, mind you, because otherwise you won't have any surprises when you come to play it yourself, but believe me, I'll cover plenty. Now, even on the day of release, this port by Dr. Beef and his team, they were still working right up until the last minute, and the last set of changes were to the guns. They include, and I'm quoting here, the pistol no longer feels like Doom Guy is a 12-year-old girl, chain gun no longer feels like it's firing tennis balls, and plasma balls no longer feel like Boo from Super Mario. Now, for those who don't know, Boo is a big bubble-shaped ghost from the Super Mario series. And you know what? I've no idea what the guns felt like before these changes, but they feel so good now. One thing that helped with the impact in the original Doom 3 was there was a hit indicator, but obviously that's not here now. But they all are an absolute pleasure to fire. The plasma gun change certainly did something because that thing packs a punch. And as long as you get a headshot in the right range with that shotgun, it will disintegrate people for some reason. Well, it's so the bodies disappear and they don't overload the PCs made in 2004, but still. Also, now speaking of guns, let's talk reloading. This port is just like the same Dr. Beef port of Return to Castle Wolfenstein to the Quest, which was actually my first review ever on this channel of a game. Feel free to check it out if you dare right here. But what happens is you press a button and the animation to reload happens before your eyes. This game had never even heard of VR when it was created, and the animations and programming just don't exist for it. And to ask that of Dr. Beef and his team is just ridiculous. Just to get this thing running on the Quest like it does was a colossal undertaking, and I'm going to get into the details of that later as well. Honestly, you get used to the reloading really fast, and if you love a good reloading animation like I do, oh, you'll be loving it. And it's a lifesaver sometimes, instead of having that fumble, panicky reload you get in VR sometimes when the pressure's on. You press a button, it reloads, you're all done. The guns feel good, they look good, sound good, no complaints here at all. Now the elephant in the room for all you gun lovers, I would imagine, is going to be that whether it be pistol or chain gun, you can use them all one-handed and only have to deal with the recoil of a weapon you're holding with two hands. Your offhand is for your flashlight in most cases, and believe me, regardless, you're going to need that flashlight. As I said before, when the game originally came out, you could only have your flashlight or your gun. Darkness with a gun or light but death. It was divisive, but later id Software actually patched this out so you could have both at the same time. But Dr. Beef and his team have provided elegant solutions here, which by default your gun is in your dominant hand, and no matter what gun you have, you'll always just be holding your torch in your other hand. And to be honest, it works really well, but you do have other options, and I'll go over that when I get to the settings part of this review. But beware, your torch runs out of juice as you go on. After a certain amount of time, it will just shut off. It just needs to be turned back on. You don't have to go finding any batteries or anything stupid like that. It's just it will shut off to, I don't know, recharge for a second, then you can turn it back on. But that time between it turning off randomly will decrease depending on the difficulty you're playing on. As I said before, with the guns, they feel good in a fight. The combat is still scary as hell, but it's an absolute pleasure with how well these guns are put together. The enemies are a little too easy for me on Marine, so honestly, if you want a relaxed time and more of just a mooch through the game to get used to things, then I would say keep it on Marine, but if you want a little bit more of a challenge, I would say start to go above that. Speaking of combat, the enemy variety here is still fantastic. There's multiple enemy types: imps, spiders, zombies, boss fights as well, flying skulls, and all the classic enemies from Doom. And that's not even all of them. There are far more than that. When id Software went the other way with how this game was going to play, they didn't skip out Doom lore when it comes to things like enemies. Now, gameplay. This is where I've run into issues, and I'm definitely not the only one, but I have to admit, this port is glorious, but it isn't without fault. Though I can't be anything but lenient here. It's mostly been done by 3 people in their spare time, with help from some others as well. But briefly, I'll just say that if you change your locomotion settings, I'll get to that in the settings in a bit. If you change moving where you move in the direction of your head, which is definitely my preferred way to do things in VR, you'll have an issue. And that is, if you stand still, turn more than 45 degrees in real life, and then push forward to move in the direction of your head, you'll end up facing an entirely new direction that you weren't even close to before. And you'll see various clips of that happening to me with the footage in this review, so if you are watching instead of just listening, you're going to see plenty of that. But if you're moving, it completely follows your head 100%, no problems, easy peasy. You're walking around, it's all perfectly smooth. It's just if you turn too far when you're stood still and press forward, you'll just go completely the opposite direction. But by default, you will be moving in the direction that your offhand is facing, and if you're holding your torch in your offhand, you'll just be moving in the direction that your torch is facing, and to be honest, that feels pretty natural. So you do have the option to change this and move in the direction of your head, and like I said, that's my preferred way of doing things, but you can change it. But I'm already looking in the Discord, and Dr. Beef and his team have already said that they're working on this issue, they know about it, and it may not even exist by the time you watch this video, depending on how long it's been out for. The other thing is you have an option for full IK tracking, which means you have a fully rendered body all the time, and you're not just a pair of floating hands. And to be honest, that full body is pretty wonky right now. I mean, this video is just after release, and you'll see it does some weird stuff.
Just washing my hands, keeping it... Whoa! I'm Slenderman!
But that's a hard thing to deal with. There was plenty of discussion about this within the team apparently before the release, but you can go to the options and you can just be floating hands if you want, so there is something for everyone here. One of the main reasons they say that they had the full IK tracking is that a lot of people require to see full arms for their immersion's sake, but it has already been mentioned by the guys as something that they're going to work on fixing, as well as some other issues, you know, tweaks here and there. But at the end of the day, these are issues, but there's nothing game breaking here, and like I say, there's always an option to change this for another route around if you are having a problem with this. Now, speaking of gameplay, the transitions from moving around to using touchscreens in this game is so fluid sometimes, I can't even believe it. It can be a bit wonky sometimes if you're trying to rush through things, but other than that, it's easy peasy to use this feature to open cabinets, turn things on and off, use one of my favorite features of Doom 3 when it originally came out, and that's the PDAs. Checking emails, in-game world videos, sorting out audio logs, picking up other people's PDAs to go through their emails, videos, audio logs. The world building here is great, and the interaction with the PDA is so smooth. And you can see why so much time has gone into it, because the PDA is a massive part of this game. You can go through other people's emails and see colleagues arguing, organizing leaving parties, winning random competitions, and quite often emailing around storage locker keypad codes that are very, very helpful for you as you go through this base. I'm as addicted to reading all the emails and listening to all the audio logs as I was years ago. This is a great feature, and Dr. Beef and his team have implemented it perfectly. Interaction is just so smooth and accurate. Bringing it out, putting it away is absolutely the same, just as smooth. I love it. So one thing you'll need to take a look at here for a comfortable experience, as I've mentioned plenty before in this review, is the settings. So let's do just that. First off, when you go to the main menu in Doom 3, where you can select the options menu, I would advise having your controller facing upwards when you first go into that menu screen, because it will make the mouse cursor a lot easier to use. This is something Dr. Beef himself has advised, so I would follow those instructions. Also, I will say this, don't go to the options menu. They are completely disabled. Everything you need is in the VR options part of the main menu. So now we're in settings. Let's have a look at the performance settings first. Like I said before, mess with these at your own risk. Dr. Beef and his team have painstakingly tested this game to find the best settings for the Quest 1 and the Quest 2. And in the settings, they've even left you a note to tell you what the ideal settings for each headset are. So you can change these settings all you want, but you can suffer from some minimal to severe performance issues when you do. If you want to up your Quest or Quest 2 refresh rate via side quest, that's absolutely fine, as there's settings for this that go all the way up to 90 Hz for the Quest 2. But also upping your texture size will result in no real improvements when using side quest, so it's just not worth it. But if you do want to change things, there's everything here. You can change from muzzle flashes being on, shell casings being on, you can enable to see your FPS if you really want to, you can change your post-processing, your super sampling, and way more. So change these settings to your heart's content, but good luck to you. When it comes to the general settings, you've got everything you need here. Dr. Beef and his team are taking care of you. You can change your targeting reticle from a dot to a circle to a laser sight with a dot to just a plain laser sight, or even just a classic crosshair. There's options to change your dominant hand, of course, for all you southpaws, whether you have full IK tracking or you're just floating hands, where your torch is, which is very important, whether you're holding it in your hand, it's attached to your guns, it's on your body, or it's on your head. I would recommend the head option, to be honest, because basically then your torch goes anywhere that you look, and it's not a separate action where you need to move your hand whilst you're looking at the same time. But then I know what you're asking, if the torch is attached to gun's head or body, what's the other hand do? What's the offhand for? Well, I'm afraid it's not for holding guns, but it sure can punch. You've also got your snap turn settings, your locomotion settings, you've got your cinematics section as well. Now, this has been a bit controversial in the Discord since day one, I have to admit. By default, this is on immersive cinematics, and that basically means that you are the camera in the cutscene. You're fixed in place, but you can look around 360, it's just the camera is in the position it would have been in the original cutscene back in 2004. I have to admit, the first set of cutscenes in this game is not the best showcase of it, but you can change to projected cutscenes, which means that they'll basically just display the cutscene as it was back in 2004 on a sort of what looks like a cinema screen in front of you, and you can just watch it like you're watching a TV. So you can choose your preference, which I think is nice. Then outside of that, you've got your HUD settings menu as well. You can change everything here. The opacity of your HUD, whether you even have a HUD at all, how you interact with screens, whether it's with your hands, your weapons, or your gaze. Now, when I say interact with your weapons, it doesn't mean you're just using the butt of a gun to smash buttons. It just means your gun doesn't go away when you are looking at a screen. Where your PDA is as well, and of course the scale of the HUD that you've got. Now, I can't review this game without a whole section dedicated to Dr. Beef and his team's work. The work that's been put in here is nothing short of astounding. The amount of testing alone is insane. This has been tested on different chipsets as well. Originally, they were looking at this back in the summer of 2020 when they tested how Doom 3 would run on a Samsung Galaxy S8. Why that phone? Because it has the same chipset as the Quest 1. Let's just say it didn't go well, so they disregarded the idea. But then a man named Emil sent Dr. Beef his Doom 3 touch port for Android, which now had multi-threading in it, which basically means that resources in the game can be shared out and not put so much pressure on the hardware's processor. But even then, the performance just wasn't quite there on the Quest 1. But then the Quest 2 arrived, and whilst that was a great upgrade, it still didn't quite get it there, but it had potential. But then Dr. Beef, the man who is 50% magic, I'm pretty sure, steps in. He does a hell of a lot of research, a hell of a lot of reading, even talks with someone who quite possibly, maybe, sometimes, maybe, possibly worked for Oculus themselves. And after a colossal amount of work from Dr. Beef, he managed to get the CPU usage down by 50%. That's what gave them the headroom for this to run on the Quest 1 and the Quest 2. In an easier way to say it, it took the FPS and refresh rate from 25 Hz up to about 60 to 70 Hz. Then with even more push and more effort from Dr. Beef and his whole team, they worked their way up to this day of release. There were others involved as well, and every single person who worked on this up to the release and helped make this happen is just as important as the last. This has been a team effort and the culmination of a lot of work. I've included a donation link down below for Dr. Beef and his team in the description. Go show them some love because they damn well deserve it. They do all of this for the love of the games and don't ask for anything back in return. A donation is the least that they deserve. So what's the conclusion here? This game is just as good as it was when it was first released. The textures hold up well, the sound design is great, the implementation of VR into this game is nothing short of astounding. It plays well, the guns feel good, they're hard hitting, they feel solid, all the mechanics work really, really well, the dynamic lighting holds up great. This has been optimized for the Quest and Quest 2 absolutely superbly, and it really shows with how smooth this game runs. Can it be a bit wonky at times? Are there some tweaks that need to be done? Of course there is. But this is made by a small team in their spare time. You can't ask for perfection from AAA companies, let alone a small group of people like this. What they have done is great. The game is scary. The campaign is still good, still immersive, still fun to play. This is definitely one of the best looking, if not the best looking native Quest game on the Oculus Quest systems right now. The conclusion here is, you better suit up and load all your guns, Marine, because you're going to Mars. There's not even anything else left to say that I haven't said in the review. Look, just go purchase Doom 3. Like I said, it cost me £1.49 to buy in, and this port is absolutely free on SideQuest. Dr. Beef and his team have put in so much work to make this happen for us, and they're not asking for any kickback, any money for it. They're doing it for the love. of VR and for games in general. Go and support them, download this, donate to them if you want to, but just go show some support for these amazing guys doing this amazing work. Play the game, pee your pants, and have a great time. If you played Doom 3 in VR, let me know in the comments down below what you thought of it. If you haven't and you've just seen this video and realized that this has been ported into VR, let me know in the comments down below what you think of turning this game into a VR game. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. It really helps out the channel. I really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe down below for lots more Oculus Quest and PC VR content. Thanks very much for watching. That's it. I'm out and I'll see you next week.